recording. Yes, thank you. So we'll just start briefly by introducing myself and also Craig, who is also here. So I am Colette and I work at the University of Glasgow, and I am I'm part of the management team of our online distance learning programs. So I'm going to speak you through some slides that will last about 20 minutes or so. I'm also here with Craig. So Craig, please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Craig. Likely I form part of the ODL management team here for the programme, and I also teach one of the modules in the programme too, which is the R programming module, which is one of the first courses that you'll do on the programme too. Just pass back to you, Colette.
Thanks, Craig. So I guess the first thing to mention is, as Craig has posted in the Zoom chat, that we have set up a Slido for anyone that has any questions. We appreciate that. Probably most of you guys are here, hopefully, with questions about the programme. So you can either join the Slido by using slido.com and using the code that's given here in the first bullet point, or if you've got some device that can scan a QR code, then please scan the QR code given here on the slide. So please feel free to ask questions at any point. So while I'm speaking through the slides, Craig is going to be answering your questions, and any questions that we haven't come across or that are kind of more common questions, we'll address them at the end. Or you can, of course, use the Zoom chat as well to ask questions, or if you much prefer, we will stop the recording after we go through the slides, and you're more than welcome to unmute yourself, put your camera on and just have a chat with us about any questions that you have. So those are the multiple ways that you can ask questions. So I guess just to kind of start off about the programme, we should probably start with the university. So as you all know, this programme is run by the University of Glasgow. So in particular, we are situated within the School of Maths and Statistics. So Craig and I in particular are part of our statistics group, which is quite a large group of statisticians. And with that in mind, you can assume that part of this programme, you will be working with quite a lot of different people who have lots of different expertise in statistics and data analytics, and that covers quite a wide range of applications. So in terms of the programme, because as you know, it's an online distance learning programme, we do have quite a wide variety of learners. So as indicated by this map here, then you can see that we do cover lots of different places. So in particular, you can see that probably around 50% of our learners are UK based, but we do have lots of different people from all over. So no matter where you are, then the chances are there'll be folk that are kind of in a similar location to you. But again, the benefit here is obviously that you will get to meet folk from all over the world. And with that comes lots and lots of different applications of data analytics. And again, hopefully it can help build up your own kind of network when you kind of go into your own professional career. So there are two main streams of programs that we offer. The first is in data analytics and the second is in data analytics for government. So both these are MSc or master's programs, but they both have diploma and certificate options. So we'll discuss what that specifically means a wee bit later. So let's start with our data analytics program. So this program has been running within our school since 2017. So the MSc in data analytics is accredited by the RSS, the Royal Statistical Society. So they are a global organisation that advocate for statistics and data analytics. So the programme really comprises of a taught element and of course the master's project. So the taught element, which we'll discuss more detail now, it very much covers 12 taught courses. So this nice little diagram on this slide is meant to indicate those 12 courses, but as you can probably see, there are 13 icons, and we'll discuss why that is in just a moment. So we can loosely categorize the courses that we have on offer into 3 different sections. So given that we are a statistics group. The first is very much focused around probability and applied statistics. So the first thing to mention here, we have these two little icons on the left-hand side, and they very much cover the probability aspect of our program. So we do have two different probability courses, and students on our program can choose which probability course they can take. We do have one which is aimed more towards folk who come from a statistics background. So the likelihood is that they've studied probability before and they're just a wee bit more knowledgeable in that area. And the second one is aimed at folk that probably are not from a statistics background. They probably haven't studied probability before, or maybe they haven't studied it in a really long time. So although both courses very much cover the same content, one covers it more directed towards folk that perhaps just need a little bit more help in some of the maths that's kind of covered within probability, whereas the other really is focused towards folk that perhaps are a wee bit more confident in that area. So in addition to probability, we have lots of applied statistics courses, and they very much centre around regression models, in extensions to regression models. We have learning from data, which covers a lot of classical statistics, and we also have a Bayesian statistics course as well. But again, those are probably more towards the applied side, and it's really how you can apply them in the everyday life and probably within different data contexts. So the second kind of component of our taught courses very much centres around machine learning. So we have two data mining and machine learning courses, which we've conveniently called Data Mining Machine Learning 1 and Data Mining Machine Learning 2. So in particular, Data Mining and Machine Learning 1 covers unsupervised and supervised learning, whereas Data Mining and Machine Learning 2 covers more along what we do when we have lots and lots of data and lots of variables, and it considers things such as different network analyses. And in addition to our data mining courses, we also have large scale computing, which I think is kind of maybe self-explanatory, where it looks into how we can efficiently implement lots and lots of data analytical methods, again, in that kind of setting where we have lots and lots of data. It also covers things such as deep learning and TensorFlow. So obviously, in order to do all this, we have to have programming skills. So programming in itself is not a requirement for our program, but we do cover 3 different programming languages. So it might seem like a lot if you're not really from that programming background, but the languages that we cover in particular are R and Python, and we also cover SAS. Yeah, so I guess probably I've said 3 different components, but I'm not really going to call this a component in itself. But the last course within our program.
1, 2.
So the last course that we have in the program is data analytics in business and industry. So there's nothing really new specifically that's learned here in terms of data analytics. But in this course, this is really where we cover those skills that you're probably going to need within a professional setting. And we look at how we can apply the methods that you've learned in other courses in lots and lots of different contexts. So in addition to the talk component, we also have the MSc program. And I think for a lot of people, this is really where they probably get the most out of the program. So in particular here, we always encourage students to try and propose their own project. So we tend to find that a lot of students already work in a data-driven role, although not all of them do a lot. Then, if you do, it's a good option. And it's a good option because you can really find something that interests you and it really works to your strengths. And I think that's really probably a good feature that a lot of students kind of look forward to. So given that it is a part-time program or MSc program, given that it's a part-time program, the project is taken over 1 academic year. So it begins in September and students have until the following summer to submit their final project. And because we do offer that option for students to propose their own project, which lots and lots of them do, then we do find that we've got so many different varieties of projects that students actually take. So I've just got a few here as examples on this slide. So in the first example, we had a student who was interested in predicting from batch data from different stages of production of glucose testing strips. So this student in particular worked from LifeScan, and of course this was something that was very, very important within that particular area that the student worked. Whereas another student was interested in social networks to see if they could inflate share prices. So again, completely different application. We have students who like to look at different types of data. So as you know, lots of data are open source. You can access them or you can request from big companies to give you access to their data. So we had a student here that was interested in share prices from Reddit data. COVID-19 obviously still very, very, very topical. And as you can imagine, there's lots of data around COVID. So we had one student interested in infection rates in Kenya. Whereas another student, completely different again, was interested in fantasy football and how we can predict scores. So again, these are just a few examples of projects that students have done. Again, you might be entirely interested in something different and thinking, I'm not really interested in these, but it's really just to emphasize that we want students, or we really encourage students to try and propose something, again, specific to them. And this could really be from any type of application. I guess the main benefit here is to emphasize that a lot of the skills that you guys learn on the program, they are massively applicable to lots and lots of different areas. So that very much covers our data analytics program. So the second option is our data analytics for government program. So this is much newer and it was very much made in collaboration with the Office of National Statistics. And again, the focus here was very much on employees of UK public sector bodies. So the Data Analytics for Government programme began in 2020. And although, as I've said, it was very much focusing on the Office of National Statistics and their employees, it follows very, very closely to our Data Analytics programme. So the main difference between the two is it's really just two taught courses. So students on the Data Analytics for Government programme, they don't take our SAS course or our Data Analytics in Business and Industry course, but instead they take our Statistics in Government course, which of course that's directly relevant to these folk who work with government statistics. And they also take our Introduction to Survey Research. So these courses are taken by our colleagues from social and political sciences. And again, they're probably more heavily geared towards students who work with government statistics or for the ONS or some UK public sector body. But I guess other than that, it's more or less identical to our data analytics program. So just a little bit about the structure. So as you guys know, it is an online distance learning program. You don't have to travel to Glasgow for any reason if you don't want to. It is part-time and students normally complete the full programme, that's the MSc programme, over 3 years. So typically what that means is that students in the first 2 years of the programme would take 2 courses each trimester. So within one academic year, we have 3 trimesters, beginning September, January and May. So over 2 years, students would complete the 12 taught courses. And then in the final year, they would take their final master's project. But there is some flexibility in that. So quite a number of students do opt to take the full MSc programme over 2 years, where they would complete 10 taught courses in year 1. And in year 2, they would take 2 taught courses and the final MSc programme. Or we do have students who take it over longer than 3 years. So really at this point, we would highly recommend that you apply to the programme with the intention of taking it in 3 years. And we really appreciate that probably the vast majority of you guys work full time, you've got other commitments. So we know in itself that's quite a big commitment to take a full master's programme. But yeah, so we really recommend that you think, I'm going to do this in 2 or 3 years. And of course, that extra few years is just there in case something happens. We just offer that wee bit of flexibility on a kind of case-by-case basis. So as I mentioned before, we do have the master's options, but we also have the diploma and certificate option. And this is for both our data analytics and data analytics for government programs. So the difference between these is very much given on this slide. So the full MSc program comprises of 180 credits. So our final dissertation is worth 60 of those 880 credits, and each of our 12 courses are worth 10 credits. So that's very much how the MSc program is made up. The postgraduate diploma is made up of 120 credits, so it very much corresponds to just taking the 12 top courses, so there's no final master's project. And the postgraduate certificate, again, is quite similar, where we have 60 credits corresponding to 6 top courses. And again, there's no dissertation. So students normally complete the certificate in 1 year, corresponding to 6 top courses, the diploma in 2 years, corresponding to 12 top courses. And then, as we said already, the MSc in 3 years, corresponding to 12 top courses and the project. So as you might expect, a major component of the programme is the assessment. So all 12 courses are assessed. We don't have any kind of typical final exams, if you like, for any of our courses, but instead we have quite a variety of different types of assessment. And again, these are probably more geared towards things that you would probably have to do within a professional setting. Again, there's some exceptions to that. So again, as you might expect, a lot of our courses have programming type assessments. As again, you might expect, a lot of courses ask you to analyse a particular data set and write up a report based on that. We do have a lot of online quizzes and class tests. Again, probably more comparable to a smaller exam. So they're not kind of weighted heavily as you might expect with a final exam. A lot of some of our courses have oral assessments where you'd be asked to book an appointment with the lecturer. They would ask you some questions on a relevant piece of work, and that's kind of how the assessment would be formed. And the last type of assessment that we really have is app development. So this is in particular something that Craig has implemented within one of his courses. So this is now where I stop sharing my screen, and I'll pass on to Craig. So again, Craig will give you more specific details, again, just as an example of the type of assessment you might expect on our programme.
Perfect, thank you, Colette. So it's going to be 2 seconds. So I'm just going to talk through one of these example assessments with app development that we have on our programming course. And this is just a sample app development project that we have that students have participated in this year. And what this typically involves, so this is just a quick example of the layout of this, but you'll be asked to create an application which can be deployed in the web using a package which comes within the programming language R called Shiny, which allows you to quite easily create interactive applications. And in this application, students were asked to kind of visualize meteorological data across the UK with a bunch of different variables of interest, with some additional things to add and looking for certain functionality. As you can see here, it's quite a different list of the full things that I won't bore you with all the minute details here. Instead, I'll actually show you an example of what this sort of output corresponds to. So here is an example of an application here. So from this project, this application was built. And what we can do is we can select things such as different weather stations here. And you see this populates a nice data visualization here of a plot. We can also change the weather variable we're looking at. So looking at air temperature, how we want to compute this. So say we want to look at a daily average, and we can change things such as through a day of the week. And we can see how these all vary too. And you also see within here that we have a nice kind of geographical map, just where all the stations are located, with a summary of the data here as well, with options to download some of the output too. We've also got a different tab up here, which I won't bore you with the details on, looking to assess a different criteria. So this is an example how in the R course we can go from the beginnings of just learning the basics of R, and in the end we can develop something that we can share and deploy with everyone on the web, which you can then widely share across and communicate all this kind of code that's working in the background here into something that's very simple and easy to use as an end product. So that's just a quick example of an application development program and the sort of kind of assessment that you may be asked to do here on the program too. So I'll just stop sharing now and pass back over to Colette.
Yeah, so again, that's just an example of what you might expect within our courses. Again, we have lots of different types of assessment, but hopefully you can see that we tried to make them as applicable to the real world and interactive as possible. So it's just a wee bit more exciting rather than a final exam. So that very much covers everything about the program. I realise that you guys might have more specific questions, so please feel free to ask those. But really now it's important just to give you guys a timeline of what to expect over the next few months if this program is something that you're interested in applying to. So the application process for both programs is open, so you can apply at any time. We do have 2 different deadlines set depending on the particular requirements. So as you can see from the website, for both programs, there's several entry requirements, and depending on which requirements you meet or don't meet, then you'll either be given a conditional or an unconditional offer. So if you look at the requirements and think that you meet them already and there would be no reason for you to require any further work, then the deadline for applicants for an unconditional offer, so i.e. those who already meet all the entry requirements, is the 11th of September. So this is 1 week before the beginning of the teaching semester. On the other hand, if you think you don't quite meet all the entry requirements yet and you're likely to get a conditional offer, then the deadline for applications is the 17th of August. And again, that's just to give you time to make sure you meet all the requirements in time for the beginning of the programme. So I think one of the kind of major conditions that we see for applicants is our pre-sessional math course, which some of you might already have a condition for. So at the moment, we require applicants to have studied at least A-level maths or equivalent, and also covered maths to level 1 or level 2 in higher education. So if you can indicate that or evidence that in your application, then it's likely admissions would give you a conditional offer and ask you to complete a pre-sessional maths course. So I've written here from August 2023, you can complete the pre-sessional math course, but we are hoping to have this up and running sooner than August. But for anyone with that condition, we will be in touch with you once everything's in place for you then to take the assessment. We do provide some learning material that you can work through again in your own time. And afterwards, you'll be asked to complete an assessment. And if you successfully complete that assessment, then assuming you meet all the other conditions, you would then be given an unconditional offer to the programme. So the programme is due to start on the 17th of September 2023. So this is the very first day of teaching. So ideally, everyone would be fully registered and enrolled at least for semester 1 courses by the 17th of September. So again, if you have a conditional offer, that's very much under the assumption that you meet all the conditions. You then complete registration and enrolment all in time for the 17th of September. So you might be asking yourself, well, if I apply, say, on the 11th of September, is that possible? And the answer is probably not. So although these deadlines are set, please don't work to these deadlines. So the longer you leave your application, then necessarily the longer it'll take for admissions to get back to you, for you to receive a registration email, for you to enroll for your courses. And it's not that uncommon for people who apply kind of later on in the summer to begin the programme late. So it's very much really to emphasise here, if you are interested, please apply as soon as possible. You can always withdraw your application if you choose to study elsewhere or you decide you don't want to take on the programme. That's not a problem. So again, just to kind of bear those things in mind if you are considering applying. So I guess really the last thing is now to answer your questions. So please ask us now. Again, using the Slido, also the Zoom chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask us in person. You can also email us. So I've got our email address on this slide. So hopefully Craig would be able to post that in our Zoom chat. So please make note of our email. This email address is also given on the university's websites for both our programs. The most important piece of information is actually our handbook. So again, I'm hoping Craig will be able to post a link to our handbook. So this very much covers the entire program from start to finish, all of courses that we offer, specific details, the specific structure of both our programs. It covers quite a lot of detail. So if you do have a question, chances are it will be asked in our handbook. But but don't feel that you have to trail through a 30-page document. That's not the case. You can ask us. And the last piece, or the last option, is that you can actually book an appointment to speak with either Craig or I. So again, another link that hopefully will be posted in the chat, how you can go about booking a one-to-one appointment with either Craig or myself. And we're more than happy to answer any questions that you might have about the programme if we don't cover them now, or if you think of them later on. So that's very much the end of our slide. So I'm just going to stop sharing. And if it's okay, I think we can stop the recording now.